Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Julie's Orchids. On today's show, we have another care collab, and the plant you see in front of you today is the Maxillaria Tenuifolia. Now, a care collab is where a group of other orchid grower channels on YouTube get together to discuss their care of a particular plant or genre. And so you can learn a lot about how to grow this particular plant by watching the different channels that are participating today, because all of us come from different parts of the world and we grow in different growing environments. Some of us growing indoors, some of us growing outdoors, some of us growing a mix, some of us grow in organic media, and some of us grow in inorganic media. So there's a lot of information that can be learned. And we'll begin by listing the participating channels. So for today's care collab, we have Orchids at Home, Orchids 365, Karin's Orchids, Hillbilly Orchids, Mama's Orchids, Dee Dee Blooms, Danielle's Orchid Ranch, and of course the lovely Ninja over at Ninja Orchid, and she's the one that has brought out the care collabers to do an episode on the care of the Maxillaria Tenuifolia. So Maxillaria Tenuifolia is a species of the genus Maxillaria, as we can guess, and this species was first described by John Lindley in 1837. This plant is native to Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, and it grows in rainforests, tropical forests with trees partly losing leaves, and sometimes also in ravines in warm oak forests. They're found at low altitudes from the sea level to approximately 1,000 meters. It is sometimes referred to as the coconut orchid. It's a medium-sized orchid. It is cool to hot growing. It is a solitary leafed epiphyte, can occasionally be terrestrial, and it has an ascending growth habit. So as you can see with this plant, the new pseudobulbs tend to grow off the old ones like they're climbing a ladder. And this is where it gets interesting with this plant. So you see all these dried sheaths on the plant. Those act as a superhighway, if you will, for the roots that each new pseudobulb produces to run through the sheaths down and into the media. Now you can have a look at my plant and you can see that my plant's sheaths look a little bit rough, and the new growth is quite very wrinkly. So I bought this plant about 5-6 months ago off of Facebook Marketplace, and I took a little country cruise down south to pick it up. And when I brought it home, I was horrified to discover that it had scale. And where do scale like to hide? In inaccessible little cracks and crevices. So when your Maxillaria Tenuifolia gets scale, it gets scale down in the root superhighway of the plant, and it's very, very difficult to get rid of. So when I noticed I had scale, I immediately went to Ninja Orchids and had a look at how she treats the scale, and I saw that she was using garlic alcohol and a paintbrush. So I very delicately tried to pull back the sheaths to expose the scale and paint them off with the garlic alcohol, which did seem to work a treat on the scale, and I've not had it come back since. But the problem is I disturbed the root pathways by sort of destroying some of the sheaths. So a few of the roots on this growth didn't make it down. They were growing out, as well as with this growth here. Strangely enough, also when I repotted it, a piece broke off, and this part down here is a separate plant, and it's growing its first new growth since I've had it right here, and I think this is possibly going to be the part of the plant that survives. I'm still quite worried about this one, as everything is getting very shrivelly. The pseudobulbs are very shrivelly. That new growth right there is ridiculously accordioned. However, if you look at these, this growth here is a little bit shriveled, but nothing by comparison to the ones on this part, and this one is growing stunted but quite well. So this plant at minimum has been quite set back, At maximum, it's just doing a slow death. It is turning yellow, and I query if that's because I'm giving it too much light, or if it's because it's dying off. I think it's because it's getting sick and dying off, because the new growths over here and here seem to be a nice green, whereas these other ones here tend to be yellow. And since these form the base of the stalk coming up, I'm afraid this part might die off. But we'll have to wait and see. And these are the shelves that I keep the Maxillaria Tenuifolia on, and it grows here all year long in the corner nook between the hallway and the kitchen by the refrigerator. So I have these underneath what I consider to be medium light, with the lower shelves on this particular shelving unit being highlight. And by that I mean I've got 2 small 10-watt bulbs and 1 long 80-watt bulb. And they seem to be perhaps getting a bit too much light, as there is some yellowing on the leaves. But as I mentioned earlier, I had a pretty bad case of scale, and I had to kind of butcher the sheaths on it, so the yellowness could be from that. So we've gone over lighting. I keep it indoors, so this is a warm to hot grower. I grow intermediate to warm, so I grow indoors, and it maintains okay status growing wise as far as I can see, with the normal temperatures that one would have in their home on a day-to-day basis. And it seems to do just fine underneath the artificial lights that I have it growing under, and I'm basing that off of these new growths, not necessarily what happened here with the scale infestation. I have it potted up in sort of a PET method. There is a little bit of water in here. There's not much roots in the pot. There are a few that I can see, one coming down to here now, which that's the first I've seen of that for a while. I have it in what's referenced here as medium bark and just bark. I don't have anything else in here besides some rocks for the water level and this. So we're going to continue to monitor how this particular plant grows along, and hope that this portion becomes fine with the new growth here, perhaps putting out some roots that will make it down with the new sheaths, and at minimum this new growth being our saving grace. Well, I'd like to thank you for watching the Care Collab today. Do check out the other Care Collabs involved in the channel. I will put a link to their channels in the description below. If you like the channel, please give me a thumbs up. As always, a subscribe would be nice. And hope everyone has a happy, healthy day out there. Thank you again for watching.